it, girl.
Ready. Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a podcast that hardly anyone listens to. Flying Otters. I am the formerly TikTok famous comedian Jimmy McCartney, and along with me, coming in at 9 months pregnant, ready to pop, formerly anemic and 25% Japanese, Kiersten Pacelli.
And the
Mac.
man who needs no introduction.
Mac, who is the worst. The absolute worst. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for the 13th episode of the Flying Otters podcast. Here we are. For those of you who have been watching us for the last couple months as we've been trying to figure ourselves out and what we're doing here, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We hope that you guys are doing great. We wanted to squeeze another episode in before a major event in our lives, but we want to thank you all for tuning in, and we hope that wonderful things are happening in yours. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Kiersten, would you like to say hello to our audience? Say anything special?
Hello to our audience.
There we go.
Let's get into it.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to jump right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about today on the Flying Otters podcast is the possibility, the concern, the ambiguity with no one really knowing what's going on in Venezuela. For those of you who don't know, a quick overview, shit might get real. Venezuela is an extremely oil-rich country in South America that's led by a socialist dictator who is a total dick, by the way. And that wasn't meant to be a pun. That's just who he is. He is the worst. Donald Trump has been sending the Navy and the Marines around in the Caribbean, around Venezuela's immediate area, around their oceans or their ocean space. In addition to that, Trump recently announced that the airspace for Venezuela is closed, which is a bold statement considering that that is, in fact, Venezuela's airspace. Now, a lot of people are scared, thinking this could lead to full-blown war. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen. It's pretty terrifying, in my opinion. It's a pretty scary thing. With that being said, I will just read from an article from a very, very, very awful news company in Canada, the CBC, but here we go. The U.S. has put pressure on Venezuela for months, and what is the end game, which is a very important question. Trump has warned that land strikes could happen. For months, the U.S. has put pressure on Venezuela and has included a buildup of military force in the region, threats of military action along with strikes on alleged drug boats off its coast. I want to highlight that. Remember, let's talk about the drug boats. Yet it remains ambiguous and unclear as to what exactly the Trump administration's strategy for Venezuela is, or the fate of the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, some analysts say. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't really know what Trump's end goal is. Obviously, we as the American public don't, but it is a little bit strange what's going on because he typically, when Trump does shit, he makes it very clear what it is that he's doing and why, but we don't really know exactly what Trump's end goal is. With that being said, one of the things that I just mentioned was the idea about I would really appreciate it if Mac was capable of just laying down and existing.
He's really distracting.
If you noticed, if you noticed that I really stumbled a lot in the beginning, he currently has a hairball coming out of the side of his lip, and he's banging into everything for no reason whatsoever. All right, back to topics of news, because I know when I need to get updated news information and decide what I should feel about geopolitics, I tune into the Flying Otters podcast. So.
That's what we're here for.
That's right. To entertain all 122 subscribers, because we are going down with negative growth, which is fine, but we're trying really hard. So anyway, this article said alleged drug boats. Come on, folks, let's be real. We can argue about whether or not we should be messing around with Venezuela. We can argue about the logistics, the why, the how, all of that shit. And even if it's moral to do it, but one thing that we shouldn't really be debating is, was he striking drug boats? I'm sure all of you have seen the videos of the drug boats that come in from the Caribbean, right? They're low to the ground. They go really fast. They're loaded to the brim with drugs. and they're in the middle of the freaking ocean all alone. That's not typically what speedboats do in the middle of an ocean. That's not how they operate or where they do it. That's a friggin' drug boat. So when you see the videos of missiles striking these boats, they are very obviously drug boats. And to say allegedly is disgusting, and it's trying to infer, in my opinion, the verbiage is trying to make it seem as if Trump isn't even sure if these are drug boats or not, and he's just like letting it rip. Oh, there's a boat in the middle of the ocean. Fuck it. Here we go. Let's shoot a missile in there. Why not? That's not how it's happening. That's really stupid. And I don't know if any people have seen in the news, like a lot of the people who are against Trump. A lot of the people who are against Trump are trying to make the argument that those people should get trials and that, Trump is being a war criminal. I am unbelievably distracted, ladies and gentlemen. Mac, come on, bro.
Don't go, Mac.
Come on, dude. We might have to start over. We really might, because we're about, ladies and gentlemen, if we do keep this going or not, either way, we're about 4 seconds away from having our cords cut and Mac breaking our expensive equipment that we can't afford to replace.
And we have no way to really get him back out from
No, we do not. So, do you want to...
Quick break from our sponsors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are brought to you today by the fine, fine people at Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels, an American-made company made for Americans, proudly sponsoring both American toys and the American way of life. Featuring this new semi-truck, a large Hot Wheels that has a container in the back that ships, you guessed it, Hot Wheels in the back. You can fit not but one that comes with the set, but a second Hot Wheels of your choosing in the back seat. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the need for having a slight form of entertainment while you desperately figure out how you're going to get your dog away from expensive equipment while you're trying to film a podcast nobody watches, you should get Hot Wheels. It is strongly recommended. They are a very trusted product, fine American product for entertainment and pride, ladies and gentlemen. And we hope that you select them. I don't think I've ever been this more distracted in my entire career in any form of media ever. But here we are, folks, trying our hardest. Now, let's get back to talking about drug boats.
Are we just going to leave him back there?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. But we can't have dead space, so the show must go on.
Okay.
So here we go. Drug boats. If you are having a super fast boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean going towards the America from South America and there's no other boats around it, it's a friggin' drug boat, ladies and gentlemen. Guaranteed they're tracked. So to try to say that you have sympathy and empathy for the people that are smuggling in fentanyl into our country, you're fighting for the wrong people, in my opinion. You just are. You just are. You can argue about whether or not we should be in Venezuela. That's a very legitimate concern. I don't think America should go to war with Venezuela, even though they're led by a dictator who's basically a communist, more or less, in the system that he created down there. But I don't think we should be there. But that's a subject for another day. The fact is that the world is really scared. This could be really ground shaking. This could change a lot of things in the world, and it's not a very good thing. And it's scary, mostly because, as that article said, no one's really been told what the clear objective is. You know, that would be like Kiersten. If I were to come to you and say, all right, listen, here's the deal. We got to pack everything up and head to North Carolina. Okay, for what, right? That's a natural question to ask. We'll figure. We just got to go. So obviously that's going to create tension. That's going to make people scared. And obviously Trump has a goal. We just don't know what it is. And there's probably a reason for that. But it's a scary thing and it's a scary time. And just another thing happening in the world where we always feel like everything's on the brink of disaster. But hey, if you're a millennial, that's all we've ever known. This is a fucking... Watch this end up being the best episode we ever do. As it's just a complete train wreck. Thankfully, you're double fisting Hot Wheels.
It's been really bad.
Huh?
We're trying hard, though.
Yeah, we are. The effort's there. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. Venezuela is scary. We don't know what's happening. It's really not good. Also, fun fact as an aside, socialism is really not good. Go ahead. Say it. I'm being political. That's fine. Socialism sucks because it doesn't work. It never has, and it's killed over 100 million people. With that being said, moving on to the next topic, and hopefully we do it better than the first one. Woke ideology in the arts. Why don't you tell us what happened while we were watching the series that we loved, Man in the High Castle? Tell the people what you witnessed.
We were watching a really good TV show, And I even recommended it to multiple people, but that was, one season in, maybe not even a whole season in, as we had started the show, because it was really good. And then by the third season,
The start of the fourth season is like
mostly the start of it kind of
shifted.
It trickled in the third season, but everything just completely turned. Like the whole story and the actual good story that was in it, all the characters and everything just faded and became a story of multiple gay relationships and black commies.
Yep.
Liberating everybody.
Yep.
And being the heroes.
Yep.
Which is just really weird because it was a show about how an alternate universe where the Axis powers win the war and the Nazis and the Japanese controlled America. And this crew of black people came out of nowhere.
Yep.
Called the Black Communist
Rebels.
Rebels.
Rebellion or something?
Yeah, something like that.
BCR was the acronym.
And they just came out of nowhere, just to add it into the show, and it didn't add any purpose, and it took away from the whole rest of the storyline.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is like the way that I felt about it, and I felt about this with movies, and I've said this a lot, I have no problem with there being gay couples in movies with a predominantly black cast, with a female lead in a male archetype of a character. I have no problem with any of those things if they happen organically. Did it feel like the things that were in the shifts that happened drastically and very obviously, was it like, did you feel like it was an organic thing that just happened to be in the storyline?
No, because if the character was gay and there was a purpose for him being gay, they didn't. Okay, the first 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, they didn't show any sex at all, nothing of the sort.
Right.
I don't even think they barely showed any kissing, or it was barely about relationships in that way.
Yeah.
Romantic relationships. I mean, there were lots of couples and married couples, and families and things like that. But just to add in the gay element, just to throw it in there, and then not leave anything else to be done with those characters. Just the fact that there was gay sex.
So it was 2 males and then separately 2 females, and it happened concurrently. So it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just like it happened organically and here's a reason. There wasn't even a message about like...
There was no reason to bring those characters into the story at all.
The whole thing was completely irrelevant. And then the issue that we saw, it has nothing to do with black people being liberators. It has nothing to do with that being an issue. The issue was the way that it was framed, where the main resistance in the first 2 seasons, they were disorganized, they were very angry, they were very dark, they were very distrusting, they weren't very honorable, they were ruthless, and they were ready and willing to do whatever it took in order to defeat the Axis. When you saw the black communists in season 4...
And it wasn't like they were all just white people or anything like that. It was a mixed bag.
It was a mix of people, but they were just the resistance.
Yeah.
But then when you saw the black communist revolution come out of nowhere in season 4, you saw them really emphasize, like, we treat women great. We care about textbooks and education for our children. We
don't trust white men.
We just want medicine for our children. And they were better organized and better structured and better everything. And everything about it, it didn't seem...
And white people can't fight with us.
It didn't seem like it was an organizational thing of, like, just this happens organically, where there's a new movement that just happens to exist. It felt like the producers behind the scenes were really trying hard to cram down a message down people's throat, which is you will accept LGBT and you will see the prominence and dominance and the abilities of what black people can do. And again, like she said, in season 1 and 2, there were black characters that were main aspects of the resistance. So this has nothing to do, like, our argument with being frustrated with what we saw has nothing to do with there either being gay people that exist or black people who exist. It has to do with behind the scenes. The people that were creating the series were more focused on pushing a message than creating good content.
Yep.
And it was so obvious and unbelievably contrasting what happened in season 1 and 2 versus 3 into 4 definitively. And then
the worst part of it all was the ending.
The ending was horrific. And
Amazon just cut funding and basically said that's it.
Yeah. So the ending was absolutely awful, and it was very obvious that there were supposed to be more seasons, but you could tell what seasons 1 and 2 were doing was deliberately building up the main bad guy to have a redemption arc, right? You could see it. It was obvious, and it was really intriguing. The actor that played the main bad guy was an amazing actor. He did phenomenal. And it was so obvious they were going to build up so that he could have his redemption story and do something really good. And instead, it had nothing to do with any of that. And then all of a sudden, they just crashed the whole end of the series. They left things completely unanswered in multiple angles. They killed off characters in ways where it was inferred they would have a way to come back, and they didn't. Everything about it was a complete train wreck. So here's the point with everything. There is absolutely nothing wrong with LGBT things in arts. There's nothing wrong with black dominance in certain roles. There's nothing wrong with having female lead characters in places where there are typically males. Like when you see the movie, we've watched the Terminator series, right? Remember Terminator 2? The female character opposite of Arnold Schwarzenegger is a woman who's tough as shit, but it doesn't feel like it's cramming the message down. Women can do whatever men can do. Women can lead men into combat. It just felt like she was a strong female, right? And G.I. Jane is another movie that was like that. The Alien movie, the first Alien, where a woman fights back against aliens. You can have females be lead characters, but the thing that we've noticed in the last decade is that the woke casting directors, the woke creative directors, the people behind the scenes care more about pumping a narrative into viewers' faces than they care about creating good content.
Yep. Or that one movie that we watched with that big alien spaceship, and the chick was able to communicate with them through the circles.
The Inkblot aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The one exactly. There's nothing wrong with having females be the dominant lead or even if she was a lesbian, if she was black and disabled, like there's nothing wrong with having that type of character who is the dominant, the best, the morally superior. There's nothing wrong with that if it's just organically there. But it's very obvious to viewers who just want to watch content that it's not that you did this organically. You want us to see a message. I know you don't watch Star Wars, but there's a scene in one of the new Star Wars movies where, like, in the end where, like, the good guys win and everybody's celebrating. Out of nowhere, two lesbians, like you just see different cutscenes of people celebrating and hugging and getting excited and jumping up and down. And then all of a sudden, they just have a close-up of two lesbians making out. And they're not even main characters. You don't even know who they are. And it was so obvious. It wasn't just like, oh, we just felt like, you know, there's just people kissing because they're excited, or there's a romantic couple kissing. You could very clearly feel the people that wrote the series wanted the viewers, you have to watch lesbians kiss. Watch it. Accept it. Love it. Cherish it. It's beautiful.
Maybe on a lighter note, you should talk about the movie that we went to see that you loved.
The Predator movie was amazing. It was so good. We went to the movie theater and watched it. It was awesome. And I'm glad you said that, because and she's not a human because she's a humanoid robot. She's a robot, but she's a female.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having a female-dominated cast. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's a good example of, like, you can do it as long as you're not cramming a message down people's throat, which they didn't.
Yeah, she was the only, like, real... There was two of them. The real, like, characters in the movie.
Yeah.
That weren't aliens.
Right.
Or predators.
Right. And there's nothing... The good guy won and the bad guy won. And there's nothing wrong with that. We didn't feel in any way whatsoever we were being crammed a message that women are strong and independent and creative thinkers and leaders. It just was they were women.
But when did the movies get so expensive?
The main thing, I don't know. Ticket prices have gone up slightly, but I mean, if you buy...
Maybe I just haven't been in forever, but like...
$9 or $10 a ticket, you know.
I feel like, you know, you could get a whole month worth of streaming. On
the problem with that is
one subscription.
Yeah, when you pay for Netflix and you watch movies from 2004 that were like C+ at best back then, you know, Netflix sucks.
Like the first Predator movie that you made me watch.
Predator 1, she did not like at all. She hated it. She couldn't stand it.
From the 80s.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic because it's just like, you know, a new universe. No one knows what's going on. I couldn't look past
the terrible graphics.
I mean, they did the best they could for the 80s.
Yeah.
I honestly like looking back on it because I watched it a lot as a kid. looking at it as an adult objectively, because I could tell you weren't vibing it when we watched it, the music was excessive. It never stopped. Like, you know when you watch a horror movie or a suspense movie and they use music towards the ending to build the suspense? They kept that going the entirety of the movie in Predator 1.
And it still didn't keep me suspensed for 1 second.
No, she hated it. Hated it.
But I did still go to see the one in theaters, and it was pretty good.
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was awesome. It was so cool. Because basically, the Predators are alien... I'm not going to talk about it. The only thing I'll say is the thing that's cool about the movie is you see the opposite side of the coin. You see the inside of the culture of the aliens that you typically only see for like a split second. You see their culture and the way they do things, which is really dope. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I thought it was awesome. So, anyway, the point that I was trying to get to, you know, with this stuff in arts is there's nothing wrong with having a variety of casts. Like the term diversity gets thrown out all the time. I'm fine with as much diversity as you want as long as it's organic to the storyline. When you deliberately, instead of like having diversity as a byproduct of the story you created, when you create diversity and then have the story be a secondary aspect of it because you want to cram that down people's throats, you're going to have people turned off by it. And not only is it going to create shitty art, but you're going to lose money. Whether the left likes to admit it or not, half the country is not left. Half the country is either, you know, indifferent or towards the right. So it's like, just objectively from a business perspective, it's stupid to cram that shit down people's throats. But more importantly than that, from an art perspective, how do you feel about it? Like, this is my point. When you watched High Castle and you saw, without us being prompted, we didn't even know. We didn't like go on Reddit because it came out in 2019 was the last season. We didn't go on Reddit and say, like, how are we going to feel about this? What are we going to learn? We went into it not knowing it was going to go woke. But did you feel...
And it started out so good. So
it was amazing.
Super disappointing.
Yeah. But from your perspective, as someone who didn't know anything, you were just watching it, was it very obvious to you that you were getting messaging from the people behind the camera? Or did it feel organic? Like, oh, there just happens to be gays, and then directly next to that there happens to be lesbians.
As it started, you know, like, it felt... Because the first 2 seasons were really good, so it felt like... okay, maybe this is organic, or maybe this is going somewhere. Maybe there's a point to all this. And then when you get to the end and you're like, okay. See, when you get to season 4 and then it's like, all right, I'm very confused now about why all this is being brought in, and it hasn't been touched on again yet. Like, where is this all going? And then you get to the final episode and you're like, there's no way they're going to wrap up all those characters that they brought in for the first... For all 4 seasons and then wrap it all up in one episode from here. There's no way this is the final episode. Like, how could they possibly? And then they didn't. You know, there was so many just unknowns by the end of it, and just the way that it ended was so awful. Yeah. Like, the show was really, really good, and I feel like if I went back and watched it a second time, I would be like even more understanding of the whole thing of each person's storyline and what's going on from the very beginning, instead of having to wonder and get, like, you know, when you see it a second time and you can kind of just see other things, see new things that you didn't pick up the first time because you didn't know what was going on. But yeah, just getting to the 3rd and 4th season was super disappointing versus how good the first 2 seasons were.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. And I'm glad that you said that, because beyond the messaging aspect of it, just objectively, the writing was so much worse.
And they changed so like the thumbnail photo for like the actual series itself. They changed that in the 3rd season. So it was like, why do they have 2 different
something felt things? Off. Yeah, I remember as soon as you saw that, you knew something was off. And then that's when it shifted. And season 3 was still really, really good, but season 4 was just it didn't even make sense. None of it did. But that's the problem, is like beyond the messaging aspect of it.
Because they brought in all new characters, or a whole bunch of new characters for no reason, without, and left a whole bunch of characters in the other seasons that they never even brought back. So it just didn't make sense. It was like, why did you build up the storyline for all those characters and then bring in all new ones in the 4th and final season?
Right, because the whole point of film is, like, when you do foreshadowing, it's for a reason. Everything in a movie or a series is supposed to be for a purpose. Yeah. Like, if you see a zoom in on something, like when we saw the boiler or whatever,
Yeah, you're like, oh, they're going to throw her in there.
You knew they were gonna because you saw it glimmering, right? So they did the same shit with characters where they were inferring these people are going to be significant down the line.
And making significant notions of things, too, like the writing in the sand and then having it on the rock and then that just being it. Like,
and also that didn't even have anything to do with the way that everything else was predicated. So the whole way it was predicated is like different timelines, and none of it had anything to do with being able to foresee into the future. And now all of a sudden it's just like written in rock. Like that wasn't a part of what was built up. So even if that could exist, it wasn't explained. The whole thing was just stupid because beyond the messaging and everything else, just from a strictly artistic perspective, the quality of the writing just nosedived. It was awful. The actors still did really good because like the actors did really well with what they were beforehand. But like the people that were writing the screenplays to drive the storyline, they fucked up.
Should we do a spoiler alert and just say what happened at the ending?
Yeah, go for it.
So that at very ending, the main character, the main villain who, you know, you're rooting for a redemption the entire time. And
they built up a redemption.
And they built it up like
the entire time. For 3 seasons. Like 30 episodes of planting seeds that he was going to have a redemption.
And then he gets to the end and is sitting on a rock. And the other main character who has been a good guy the whole time and had so many different relationships with this person and different timelines and everything. And they had a chance to have a powerful conversation. At the very end, it was just them two. And instead, there was no words exchanged, and the villain just shot himself in the head.
No redemption.
And that's it. And then he was just over. His character was just over.
And he didn't even toil with a redemption.
He didn't even say a word to her.
No, he spoke to her, but she didn't say anything back. He only said like 2 sentences, and then he shot himself. And they were just, oh, you're here. I didn't expect you to get here too soon.
Oh,
and
so
then
barely counts.
And then he basically just said, like, I'm a bad guy, and then he killed himself. Didn't even, like, toy with the idea, didn't offer her assistance, didn't do anything. The whole series was built around those two, like, having their destinies intertwined, right?
In multiple parallel universes.
Yeah. And then there it is. Everything was a build-up to that moment, the way that it was written in seasons 1 and 2, and they just butchered the whole thing. And not to mention the train wreck that came after that. With the glowing tunnel and
the literal train wreck?
No, like the metaphorical one at the very end of the series with the glowing light and all the random people coming out.
Yeah.
Basically, without having to watch the series, they basically just flooded the end of this episode with things that were not predicated or not explained.
They opened up the portal to the other universes, and all of a sudden a bunch of random people who don't say anything and you've never seen them throughout the entire show just walk through into this world or this universe that is essentially destroyed.
And still controlled by Nazis. And also...
And they just kicked the Japanese out, even though they were on the same side, but they had kicked the Japanese out, and so now all of America was controlled by Nazis. But all of the main guys and leaders are dead. And then the portal opened up, and random people came in.
And the thing that, like...
That was the ending of the entire series.
Yeah. And without getting into too much detail, the reason why that doesn't make sense about the portal is because the way that it worked was the Nazis had access to control it. So all of a sudden, without anyone doing anything, the portal just opens for no reason, and it's not explained. It doesn't make sense, and people are coming out organically. Like none of it made sense. None of it. It was all stupid. It was shit. And the reason why all of this is being said is, if you want to use your platform to progress your agenda, fine, but let it be known that that's what it's for. If you are creating art to entertain people and you have a primary focus on your agenda instead of the art, what will happen is what we just described. Beyond conservatives or even apolitical people getting irritated by the messaging, just objectively, the art will plummet. Because you can't have the messaging and the art both be primary functions. There can only be one. Right? So if you focus too much on that shit, it's going to have a detriment to the art. It just will. Everybody loses. Do you really think, like I say this on stage, but like kind of, but do you really think if there's like a bigot, you know how we were talking about the lesbian scenes and the gay scenes? Do you guys think, like objectively, let's think about this. All right, progressive casting directors and progressive screenplay writers, listen to me. Hear me out on this podcast that no one will ever hear. Listen to me now. Let's just envision the stereotypical bigot who is a homophobe, hates LGBT people, spent their whole life hating them, their entire lives. Nothing ever changed their minds. Not even the massive shift culturally that we're facing in this country where most people accept it. There's still the hardcore homophobes. I hate the gays, and nothing's going to change it. Do you honestly think, in your arrogant, stupid mind, that if you have scenes of gay guys kissing and scenes of lesbians having sex, that those bigots that spent their whole lives being bigots are going to watch that when they wanted to watch a cool series about Nazis getting killed and fighting the resistance? Do you really think that lifelong bigot is going to watch that and be like, you know what? I was wrong. This homo stuff is cool. There ain't nothing wrong with that. That's just two dudes kissing. Who cares? I guess I've been an idiot my whole life. Thank you, Hollywood. Now I know. You helped me. What are we even talking about? That's never going to convert anybody. Who are you messaging? The people that support LGBT already do, so you don't need to fucking cram it down their throats. The people who are indifferent are indifferent. That's the whole premise of being indifferent. And the hardline actual homophobes are not going to come to your side because you cram down a scene of a skinny little gay guy and a muscular cowboy making out. It's not going to get them on your side.
I don't think they do it to get homophobes on their side. I think they do it because they truly believe that that's what the people want to see. And I guess if a majority of the people do want to see that versus just seeing, like, think about the amount of people who want to watch, like, Desperate Housewives and just, like, lame stuff like that. That's not good content at all. No story, just lame, right? Those are the kind of people who are like, oh, this is cool. I relate to this.
Okay, maybe. But okay.
But those also probably aren't the same people who are wanting to watch a show about Nazis. And
that's the point I was going to make. Even if, like, let's say you're a super gay guy who lives in LA. You're super, super gay. You're all the way. And you also, independent of being a gay guy, you love World War II. And you love seeing any movies or TV shows about the Americans versus the Nazis. And now, all of a sudden, in the middle of this series that you're watching, boom, there's gay guys making out and lesbians having sex and going to lesbian bars. Do you think that guy who is a gay guy and supports the movement but just wants to watch a series about Nazis, do you think that's going to, like, make him be like, man, this made it better. Thank God I feel represented. No, that guy wanted to watch fucking Nazis and machine guns and time portals and shit like that.
Yeah, because it doesn't need to be about gay stuff doesn't need to take over everything.
Exactly. So, like, think about a stereotypical frat bro who loves banging chicks.
People can just exist.
Yes.
And be gay.
Yes.
Or not.
Yes. Think about a stereotypical frat bro who loves banging chicks. That's like his thing. He loves it. But he also loves watching action movies. He loves seeing, sci-fi space battles. He isn't going to care if he's like, I'm going to go see this space movie. He's not going to walk out of there if there's no sex scenes of a dude banging a chick in a shower. He's not going to walk out of there and be like, man, that was cool, but I could have used some sex scenes in there. He would have just said, that was a cool movie about sci-fi.
Exactly the same as this for us, that we didn't even, it wasn't even like we were like, oh, well, where are all the sex scenes in the first 2 seasons? There hasn't been any.
We were just watching.
Just watching TV.
Yes. And that is the point. There is nothing wrong with being gay, disabled, black, Latino, whatever the hell anyone is. We support all of that. And also, live and let live. But, fun fact, when you try to take that messaging of the
You're also allowed to just have regular TV.
Yes.
Without it all being just based around that.
Yes. And if you do try to base TV and music and art around that, it will cause it to plummet because you're not focused on the primary function, the mission, right? The mission of creating art. If you want to be a political person, go to politics. Don't create art. And that doesn't mean your art can't be infused with it. Or if you are someone who's like very heavily political or wants to get your messaging in, do it. But like let it be known ahead of time. You know? Like case in point. Let's do the opposite of that. Imagine the same scenario, right? First seasons 1 and 2, there was hardly any religion in it, right? That's like a conservative view, being a hardcore Christian. How would you feel?
There was Jewish stuff.
There was, but I mean, that relates to the Nazis.
But that was to make the whole point about what the whole story was about.
Yeah, so, that there was Jewish themes in there, but that's because the Nazis persecuted the Jews, so that makes sense. But there wasn't like an overtone of like religious foundation in the series, right? There wasn't anything crammed down your throat. Imagine same thing, and then all of a sudden in season 4, there's a diehard religious sect that is just saying how much better the Christians are than everybody else, and they're here to save everyone and liberate everyone, and everybody go preach Christianity, and they kept cramming the Christian message down your throat. We would feel the exact same way. You'd be like, whoa! We want to watch Nazis and parallel universes. We don't want to watch messaging about how the Christians are the beloved, wonderful people who are better than everybody else, you know, and more organized and have their shit together, and they're more moral and ethical. And I want to watch people being, you know, converted to Christianity. No, I want to watch Nazis get shot with a machine gun.
Well, and it especially just says, it makes the same point to say that, yeah, there was religion in it, but it was based on the story.
Right.
It was because it was necessary for the story, and it added to the story.
Right.
Adding irrelevant religion things to it would just be irrelevant and not add to the story at all.
Yeah.
So that would just be cramming it down your throat, opposed to it just naturally being there.
Yes.
Because the Nazis were killing the Jews.
Yes.
And that was the premise of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which in any World War II movie or show, you're going to see that. So it had to be there.
But it was there organically. And if it was
and
crammed
it wasn't
down
even
our throats,
overpowering.
Yeah.
There were sections of it, and
Yeah.
there were topics of it, but that was it. There were a few characters.
And I could guarantee that if the same equivalency on the opposite end of the spectrum, like if the screenwriters and the producers of season 4 were diehard Christian and they crammed that shit down our throats in the series and it caused a detriment to the plot line, we'd feel exactly the same way.
Yep.
What the hell was that? That was stupid. That sucked. Why?
Or even if it just all of a sudden turned into like straight people sex scenes. Like the whole just overwhelming with that. We'd be like, what happened to the story?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't in the first 2 seasons at all, and now it's overloaded with it. Like, what the hell are we watching?
Yeah. And there was even like little things that were silly. You know, like when you saw like in the last episode where the black people were ready to defend themselves from an air attack, and you saw like the main black lady who had like a handgun, right? Like an assault rifle, and she was ready to defend from an air attack from bombers that were like 30,000 feet in the air.
With like hundreds of planes.
Like everything about it was just so silly. It was so silly. It was so silly. And the point that I am trying to get to, you would think that after Disney has lost billions of dollars with this shit, because this has happened in a million movies that Disney's pumped out and a bunch of other companies, the idea of go woke, get broke, you would think they would learn, and they just haven't yet. They just haven't.
Well, this is Amazon.
Right.
Oh, you're saying the other streaming platforms.
Netflix has done it. Like, they're not learning, because the arts tend to be filled in positions, and it makes sense with people who are more creative tend to be more liberal. So there's going to be that. That's just the way it's going to be. But when we were kids in the 90s, right, and you would watch movies, you would never see this shit. You would never feel it. You just went to the movies. You would never feel like a message was getting crammed down your throat, you know? It's just like it's a weird thing, and it's like they're doing it to themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're losing money. They're losing support for messaging that you're not winning people over with. It won't work, you know? But who knows? Maybe if enough mostly unknown podcasts speak up and speak their mind, maybe a massive shift can happen, and Hollywood can watch the Flying Otters and say, you know what, guys? We've been going this route and investing billions of dollars, losing it, watching it go down the tubes. But when we saw episode 13...
You guys are right.
When we saw episode 13 of The Flying Otters, we were like, you know what? It's time for a change. That was the voice we needed to hear. One small step at a time, ladies and gentlemen. You can do it, especially considering maybe 2 people will watch this, but who knows? With that being said, let's seamlessly segue into the next segment, which is, why don't you let everybody know?
You're the one with the paper.
Can you read that?
We're about to have a baby.
We are about to have a human child, ladies and gentlemen. Kiersten is a ticking time bomb over there, and the problem is, you know how
funny would it be if we caught it on video?
Oh, no.
That would really just make this 13th episode
one for the ages.
The disaster that it started out as.
Yep. And it ends with a bang, too.
Yeah, that would be funny to show him when he's a little older. Look.
Here's how it started, big guy. So we are just a couple days away, and Kiersten is like the bombs in movies that you see where the countdown is ticking, except the problem is we can't see the countdown ticker, so we have no clue. But it's any day now. Why don't you tell everybody how you are feeling? Just be very honest. Hit them with it.
Well, it's a question I get asked about 10 times a day and have been for the past 8 or so months. How am I feeling today?
Mentally.
Or how am I feeling about the whole thing?
I didn't mean physically. I mean, like, how do you feel about the gravity of what is about to happen to us, the unknowns, your fears, anything?
I mean, it's terrifying. And it's also terrifying to be vulnerable about it, you know, in front of who's ever going to watch this.
And that's why I'm proud of you, though. I'm proud of you. I say this to her almost every time we finish an episode, how proud I am of her. Because, I mean, I've been doing stuff with, like, film and crap like that for a while, so I feel comfortable in front of cameras. Kiersten's never done this. She's always taken pictures, but she's never jumped in front of them, and she's doing such a good job.
I'm always behind the camera.
Yeah, well, you're doing a really good job, and you've been getting more and more comfortable as these episodes progress. I see it every single time. You know, I'm really proud of how well you've done. And there's something liberating about just being your authentic self, you know? Not saying you have to go out there and express your sexuality and political views in every format, but, you know, I'm really proud of you for being able to talk in front of a camera and speak your mind on things, you know?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's really not.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It can be. Yeah, for sure.
Especially when it's about, you know, personal things like this. It gets easy to talk about news stories or opinions, but about personal things, you know, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd say overall, yeah, we're terrified. I'm obviously excited. You know, I want to see what he looks like. I want to see who he is. And
is he going to be a psycho?
Yeah. I mean, I know life is about to be really, really hard. It's already really hard. Being pregnant is really hard.
Yeah.
But mentally, I mean, I have no idea what to even expect, you know? Like, everyone says it's the best thing you'll ever do. It's the best thing ever. It's so great. And I'm sure it is, but it's still terrifying.
Yeah. Especially in our situation.
Yeah. And, you know, we still don't have, like, we don't own this house. So we'll be moving again within a couple months, most likely. And a lot of unknowns, a lot of things to figure out with a newborn baby.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah. Yeah. And in addition to that, not to try to gain sympathy votes or anything like that, but in addition to us having a baby on the way, we've also just been going through an extremely hard chapter. You know, lots of unfortunate things have been happening to us, and bad things, and, you know, sad things, and chapters closing, and all kinds of stuff, you know. We've been in a weird wave, and I'm sure all of you have felt it. You know, when you're in just for whatever reason, you just get into a timeline or a time span of a couple months or whatever it may be, where it just feels like everything's out to get you, and You know, you get hit with more bad news, more setbacks, more struggle, more hardship, more this, and you just keep hoping, when is it going to stop? And I hope it gets better, and it just doesn't, and it just keeps raining and raining and raining. You know, and not to say that it's been all horrific, because it definitely hasn't been, but Kiersten and I have been dealing with that at the same time that we have a kid on the way. You know, I travel to do shows. You know, what are we going to do? You know, there's so many unknowns about our situation, and, you know, at the same time, we've been dealing with a really difficult chapter, and it's been really, really hard. And you hear me talk about it, you know, on stage whenever I close out shows, about trying to make people feel better when they're in that chapter, and we're in it right now. You know, it's tough and it's scary at the same time that we are now going to be responsible for a human for the rest of our lives, and neither one of us have ever done it. And we're all alone in Tampa. You know, we have friends here, thank God, but like, it's us, and we don't know, and we don't have answers to what we're gonna do next, which is unbelievably terrifying. You know, and to be able to talk about that in front of a camera, I'm really proud of you for doing that. You know, it takes courage to be able to not just try to project strength, but admit scars, admit struggles. You know, that's a whole nother aspect to life. And I think personally that as people do that and they don't hide things, that doesn't mean like go around, be the victim and like, oh, pity me, look at me all the time. But also simultaneous to that, like, you know, admitting that, you know, you're going through it takes strength too. You know, it's a whole nother thing. And for anybody, the reason that I think it's good that we talked about that or are talking about it now is for anybody that is out there and you feel like life's out to get you and you just can't catch a break, and no matter what you do, you keep going back, you never go forward. You remember that song by Akon and Bone Thugs, I tried so hard? One of the coolest lines in that whole song. I love that song. I've loved it forever. One of the coolest lines in that whole song is, I feel like I'm taking 5 steps forward and 10 steps back.
Yep.
So it's like you're trying and you're putting in so much effort to get ahead, and no matter what you do, it actually sets you back further. No matter what, you're going the wrong way. And that's how we felt, you know, like you see it, you know.
And those 5 steps forward are incredibly hard.
And then the 10 steps just
the 10
happen.
10 steps back, you just get one kick, really. Yep. And it's like 10 steps back.
Yep. So like, it's like one of those things where, you know, without listing them ad nauseum, you know, we've been in a space of like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And all of those things are coinciding with the birth of our baby, you know, which is just like, it's wild. And for anybody out there that's in a chapter that's similar to that, or has gone through one and is still scarred from it, we hope that wonderful things happen to you, that you hear me say it on stage, that those clouds part and the sun shines brightly for all of you, because you all deserve it.
And if you ever feel like life is fighting you, don't ever forget that you were fighting back and you were winning.
Hit him with it. You are stronger.
You are stronger than the forces that came at you. You are winning.
You are bad.
You are bad motherfuckers. And I hope that the sun shines brightly and the clouds part soon for each and every single one of you, because you all deserve it. My name is Jimmy McCartney. Have a good night, everybody.
And that is how I end all of my shows. And Kiersten, God bless her soul, has had to hear me say that about 100 times now. You've seen so many of my shows.
Yep.
But here's the thing, folks. With that being said, I'm glad that she actually mentioned that, because one thing that we've mentioned, no matter all of the things that have come at us and all of the struggles that we've had in the last couple months and the hard things that we've gone through and all of the setbacks, we've had each other, and nothing has even come close to dividing that. Not even one iota has come close to dividing that. And so we're so unbelievably lucky that we have each other, and we're so thankful for each other.
Yep.
And we're so lucky that we have one another, knowing how thankful we are, you know, like we're very fortunate. That is one thing that we don't have to worry about.
Yeah. You know, thinking about the struggle and how nervous we are about having this baby, there are people that are in infinitely harder situations than us. And I mean, of course, anybody can always say that about anything, right? There's always someone who has it worse off. But really, we have it pretty good, and it's still terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, because there are so many unknowns, and we don't want to have, you know, a life where we end up just settling for what we have to do.
Yeah.
Versus what we want to do.
Yeah.
And so we're both very passionate about being able to do those things instead of just being told what we need to do in order to survive.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this doesn't set us back, and this only just fuels us forward even more. But we are really lucky to have each other. And that's one thing that no forces or any external things can take away from us.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck. If you try, good fucking luck. That's something that's not going to break. Good fucking luck. Go try somebody else, because that's not working. Nothing's breaking that. And we're lucky. But with that being said, I'm glad that you mentioned what you said about how there's people that are in much worse situations. One thing that I think that happens a lot of times people will say, like, you know, yeah, sure, my grandma's dying and I don't know how I'm going to pay rent next month, but I live in America and I have a full belly. Like, sure, you're right. There absolutely are people that have things way worse. But that does not take away from the fact that what you are going through is still really hard and really dark and really hard. Right? Like, don't ever minimize your issues because you were aware of the fact that there are people that have it worse than you. Like, sure, like, it is important to understand how lucky you are, but it also shouldn't be used as a way to diminish the amount of pain that you're in and the struggle that you're in, right? You know, like, just because a billionaire breaks his leg doesn't mean that he doesn't feel pain, even though he's aware he has it better than almost anyone in human history because he has billions of dollars. He still feels the pain of the broken leg. If his mother dies, he still feels that pain, and his pain is just as real as me and you. You know,
that just goes back to the beginning of everything that we were saying about it being okay, it being hard to be vulnerable and to be weak and to admit those things, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just be a normal person, too.
And you've heard me say this to you, and I think it's very true. I think that when people own their scars, and again, there's a very big distinction between being a victim or making your identity rooted in your scars. There's a very big difference between that and what I'm saying. When you own the things that you've had to overcome and the things that you've had to deal with and the things that mold you, and you own it unapologetically, it is a very liberating thing. I know for myself, personally, James McCartney, that when I was a young kid, I was very, very extroverted, outgoing, could talk to anyone and everyone. And when I got into, like, middle school, high school, and I wasn't as popular, I secluded myself and I dimmed my colors because I wanted to fit in and I didn't want anyone to know, you know, the truths about who I was because I was so obsessed with conformity and, like, being accepted. The thing that I've learned as I progressed forward and you know, became who I was supposed to be, when you own the things that have shaped you and you're not apologetic about it, it actually is an unbelievably liberating thing. For me, personally, as someone with ADHD, dyslexia, OCD, you know, I had an eating disorder till I was like 22. When you own those things and you're not afraid of them and you're not ashamed of them and you can just carry out and just talk about it and just say it, you can just say, this is who I am. I am who I am. I'm James McCartney. I was a loser when I was in middle school, but who gives a shit? You know what I mean? When you own things like that and you are proud of who you are, it becomes a very liberating thing because you can navigate through the world and the way that you communicate with people without fear. This is who I am. And again, that doesn't mean walk up to Joe Blow on the street and say, you know, my father was abusive and I didn't eat real food until I was 12. Like, no, I'm not saying do that. But when you walk through the street, if those are the things that happen to you and you get to a position where, you know, you're meeting new people, don't feel like because of those things you have to dim your light. Just be proud of who you are and own it. You know, and if you own those things and you be the individual you are, I think that is one of the most beautiful aspects of being a human. This is something, I'm glad that we talked about this. Are you ready for this? I'm going to say something that matters, goddammit. Being a human is extremely hard and living is very difficult. I think the most beautiful thing about humanity is how different we are. The way that we look is fucking trivial. The way that we think politically is stupid and trivial. What really matters, in my opinion, is what makes us who we are. our interests, our hobbies, our skill sets, the things that we're good at. People who love painting, go fucking paint. I don't care if you're an accountant in a cubicle. If you like painting, don't give up on it because you used to enjoy it. Keep painting. You are special because you paint. It doesn't matter if it gets seen in an art gallery. If you want to do it, then fucking do it. But if you just like painting, don't tell yourself, well, I only did that as a kid. I have to be an adult. No. Paint. If you love building Legos, build Legos because it's enjoyable.
If you love playing with Hot Wheels, play with Hot Wheels.
And if you like putting them on your 9-month pregnant belly and just leaving them there as if they are resting on a shelf, then do it. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, playing the trumpet, going out and molding clay, whatever the hell it is, go do it. The thing that is so beautiful about humans is that we all have different interests and hobbies, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what living truly is. And that's what's really special in this world, is what makes us unique, and go do it. Do not ever surrender your individuality. Don't do it. Don't give up on what makes you special. That's the most beautiful thing about you. Whatever it is that you like, whether it's making animations, whether it's reading ancient Roman history textbooks, I don't care. Do what it is that you enjoy that makes you special, because that's what's beautiful about humanity. What's beautiful about humanity is not conformity. Just doing and thinking and living like everyone else is and just becoming a living embodiment of a social media feed. No, go be weird and go be yourself. Do what makes you happy. That is what is beautiful about being a human, folks. Being a human is hard, and it's very dark, and it's filled with a lot of struggle. But one of the beautiful things that this world has about being a human that no one can take away is what we like doing. And use what little free time you have to make yourself happy and do what you enjoy. That is the end of my rant.
Amen.
Thank you. And with that being said, we will now transition into my new favorite segment of this show. Yep. No seams at all. To the next segment, ladies and gentlemen, that I love with all my heart. And it is Turo Reviews with Sagi Abdul. This is a gentleman that we had a rental from when we were on the road doing our shows. And when we were there was a gentleman who rented us a car who was unbelievably ridiculous. We changed his name to keep his anonymity. But these are actual reviews left and his responses. This guy is unbelievable in the way that he responds, and we want you to be able to enjoy them too. Toro Reviews with Sagi Abdul.
Let's get a little sound. Okay. All right, that works. I can't really see what they say, so that works. I did not have them memorized yet.
Here we go.
Okay. This review comes in at 4 out of 5 stars. And the review says, cracked windshield. Period.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. 2 words. They stated that the car that they got had a cracked windshield, no hate attached to it, and still gave 4 out of 5 stars.
Here is the response from the hosts.
Sagi Abdul.
Yep, not impeding your view. Cracks or chips. It is Alaska. Goodness. We received the vehicle less than 24 hours before you got it, proceeded to glass repair, and ordered the glass. Customers have the right to not accept the vehicle. However, we give several hours notice to the guest/you. Not sure why you didn't read the pre-booking message. Could have just been canceled. Then you would have been scrambling for a vehicle during the busiest time of the rental season.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an actual human being who has a business giving out cars to customers. This gentleman has no qualm with blaming customers for absolutely everything and owns absolutely nothing. He owns nothing. He apologizes for fucking nothing. Sagi Abdul, that is an alias, is an unbelievably ridiculous human being. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Toro Reviews with Sagi Abdul. Uh-oh. All right, we got to go back. That's all right. Technical difficulties.
Wrong one.
And now, moving on to our final segment of the night, one of my personal favorites, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise. Get ready for Kiersten's Hot Take.
Today's hot take is simple, but important. And that would be that the superior flavor of ice cream is mint chocolate chip.
Wow. She said deliberately that she wanted to say this just to piss me off and get me going. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Mint chocolate chip. When in human history has any kid ever said, oh my God, I want ice cream. I want ice cream. Give me some mint chocolate chip. You know what? You are ridiculous. You're not supposed to. Okay, here's the thing. I don't even think mint chocolate chip ice cream tastes terrible. I don't think it's horrific. But you know what I do think? I do think that everything else is infinitely better. So why on earth, when you have a very limited number of times to enjoy ice cream in your life, would you choose to select mint chocolate chip?
Okay, why would you only have limited times to enjoy ice cream?
Because we are going to die at some point, and it's not healthy to eat ice cream every day.
Oh.
So if you know that the number of times you're going to eat ice cream in your life is limited, why would you ever choose to select mint chocolate chip?
Because it's the best flavor.
You honestly think it tastes better than anything?
That's what saying it's the best flavor means.
All right. Talk to the people about why you love it, and I'm going to look up the percentage of people who think so. Let's see.
Where are you getting this poll data?
I don't know. I'm going to Google it.
I think we should take our own Flying Otters poll.
That's right, folks. Leave a comment. And we know that there's about 4 people watching if we're lucky, so...
The least you could do if you are watching and you have made it this far, just tell us what's your favorite ice cream in the comments. And hopefully, I know at least one person will agree with me, mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, because you know he always watches, and he's the only other human on Earth who likes that shit. This is surprising. It is not the number one flavor. This is just from Google AI. While not the number one flavor, mint chocolate chip is a consistent favorite, often ranking 7th or 8th most popular in the U.S., with studies showing anywhere from 8 to 9% of people liking it best, and 3% of sales. Though many people enjoy it without it being their absolute top choice, showing its polarizing but loved status. Only 35% of people like it at all, but 9% of people like it as their favorite. What are you doing here?
I was looking for something good.
Like a sound effect to prove your point?
A little boom.
I don't think that 8 or 9... You want to know how I feel about mint chocolate chip?
That's what I was looking for right there.
Mint chocolate chip can go... itself. All right, that is my thoughts on mint chocolate chip. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Flying Otters podcast this evening. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that maybe it helped you escape your bullshit for a little while and helped you feel good. Maybe you learned something. Probably not. Maybe you laughed at our expense. Possibly so. But you also found out that Kiersten loves mint chocolate chip ice cream. That's what you learned.
And shark bubbles.
Well, we've already known that. That is for sure. There's very few episodes, I think, that you haven't had shark bubbles going. But yeah, you do love shark bubbles. And with that being said, folks, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope that wonderful things come your way. We hope that they come our way, too. But we hope wonderful things come your way. And we hope that you all have a wonderful day tomorrow. And all the days after that go just as well, if not better. Thank you guys so much for tuning in
to your completely unknown podcast that will probably get flagged for copyright violations and or terms of use violations for our policies. Flying Otters! Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and tune in for another exciting edition at a date to be named, viewed by people that probably do not exist. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to the